Copic friends, Michelle Houghton here. I have another installment for our Copic color families. So I'm slowly working my way through all of the color families and showing you all of the markers available so that you can have a comparison kind of side by side of ones you think you would like to work with. I'm going to give you two other resources. If you're looking to purchase markers, I would always recommend Violetta Ink, and I will put her info kind of along the page here. She does monthly sales where you can get a discount using a discount code. So tune into the Copic and the Craft Room Facebook page to make sure you're getting those if you aren't seeing them elsewhere. And then the second one is over at Vanilla Arts. Amy Schulke, the artist there, is artist and teacher there, is doing this whole series on the Copic color families. And she is focusing it on, as a beginner, which blending group should you buy? And she's not talking about a natural blending group. She's not talking about your the 10+2 blending groups that we talk about when we did the Copic certification stuff. She's talking about a group of markers that blend well together and get some of those top instructors out of there the colors that they're looking for and using most frequently. So a great beginner's guide as you're building your collection of Copics, because we all know that they are expensive. So it's better to pick and choose. Make sure you make good choices. Don't just go out there and buy a huge set. You're going to have a bunch that you never use. You're going to have a bunch that just don't do what you want them to do. So I would highly recommend those articles. She's talking to a lot of people and getting a lot of good information. So today I am using an image by Anne Corbiere Scott, and she is at AnneCorbiereScottDesigns.com, and it's this little image. It is called Eileen. She has these digital pages that are already in an 8.5 by 11. You guys have seen these before, and I've got it already cut out, but all you do is pull it up, you print it off, it's sized, ready to go. This is the image up in the right-hand corner. It's ready for a card front. All you do is color it and slap it on, or do whatever you want to do with it. And then she always has a couple sentiments on there. I thought for the yellow greens, because there's 6 distinct groups. And for me, I'm not mixing up the saturation groups. I'm keeping them in their saturation groups, meaning the first number on the marker. So they all have YG. And then we have some YG zeros. We have some YG ones. We have some YG twos and 4s and 6s and 9s. So we have 6 distinct groups, and I've got kind of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 distinct areas that I can color up. So I gave myself a little key on little tag. I've got flower ones going to be 0s and 4s, 1s and 6s, 2s and 9s. So obviously I'm coloring the flower itself green, but it was kind of a funky, fun flower, so I thought it definitely worked for that. And then we have a bonus marker with a YG30 that came in the celebration set. So if you've found one floating around, not everybody's got one and you can't go out and purchase it, but I'm including it in this just in case. I haven't had this question yet, but I'm not including the fluorescence in this. I feel like they're kind of a group unto themselves, but they blend, the YGs that are fluorescent blend in actually really well with the YG family. Not all of the fluorescents do that, but the YGs do. I have a couple videos specifically about the Copic fluorescents that you guys can look up if you're more curious about that, and maybe at the end I will touch on them again. Okay, so YG family, I'm going to pull mine because they're all gathered closely together. I'll pull those out and we will get started looking at those color families. We've got some YG zeros, which are really bright. I hope you're ready for brightness. And like most of the families, color families, the YG zeros tend to be one of the larger groups because they go all the way to a quadruple 0. And this time a double 0. So not all of the color families have both the quadruple and the triple 0. This one has the quadruple and it has a double 0, but you're going to see it's going to give us plenty of range. Gotta tell you, it's a little crazy. Okay, we have our 1s. Pulling those guys out. And we have 2s. There's another 0. It's huge. 2, 2, 2. The 4s are smaller. 6s is kind of a set that everybody knows. Okay, so the YG1s have 3 markers in their set. The YG2s have 3. The YG6s have 3. The YG4s only have, and the YG9s have 3. Very common. So we've got these 3 markers in each of those sets. And then the YG4s only have 2. And of course the YG30 is a standalone. It's just kind of as a bonus if you found it. And then the YG0s have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Yes, 8 markers. So where were we going to put those? They are going on the outside of this flower. That's a lot. Can I do it? We're going to attempt it. So these sections are going to have to be really small. YG09 is lettuce green. We're going to keep it right at that outer edge. I still want to make it look round and kind of cupped. Even though I'm just showing you guys how these markers work and how they sit side by side, I'm having fun still coloring these images that I'm finding to color up for you. So I still want to make them look nice. YG07, double check. Yes, is next in line, acid green. Those are sneaking up a little further. Now I am going to try to avoid the dots because I have kind of a plan for that. We'll see if it works. So starting in the 09 and pulling a little further. YG06 is yellowish green. I love when they use the ishes in the actual color names. It's kind of a yellowish green. It's how we talk, right? Makes me laugh. And then we have a YG05. Oh, here we go, getting bright. Now, I will say, if you're new to Copic, the YG0s are a really happy blending group. They love to blend together. YG03, meaning they just melt into each other. I am having to do like little to no work. They just kind of go, which I love. I'm all about the ease. This is YG01. This is green bice. Hadn't noticed that before, and I didn't say what the YG03, yellow green. So YG01 verges on fluorescent. It ends up being this great color to brighten up leaves and stuff like that. Then we have 2 more in the YG0s. We've got YG00 and it's Mimosa Yellow. And we have the YG quadruple 0, which just like the other quadruple 0s out there, and this one is lily white. Just like the other quadruple 0s, you're gonna barely see the color when I lay it down. You'll see that I've wet the paper, but to actually see that color, we're gonna have to let it dry a little bit, and then you'll see the ink. So there are the YG zeros, all 1, 2, 3, 4, no, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 of them, all in that little flower. All right, so YG1s are next. We've only got 3 of them. We've got YG17, and that is grass green. And we're moving up to the exterior of this flower, but you can already see with the YG1 that we've added some gray. It's already shifted a little bit. It's not as vivid. It's a beautiful color though. YG17, keep this one in the back of your head. It's a keeper. Okay. And remember, we've only got 3s, so we can definitely take this a little. I'm reminding myself, Michelle, remember there's only 3. I just drew all over my hand. YG13, chartreuse. So this lightens quite a bit now. Remember how I said they blend super easy together? This is one of those jumps that's a little bit harder. It's a big jump, so I'm going to give it a little more oomph, help it along a little more. Still want to flick out at that edge so it gets a little bit lighter, but come back in here and soften that a bit. The next question is going to be what paper am I working on? Today I am working on Express It blending stock, which is that really like buttery smooth paper. So that was Y13 chartreuse, this, or YG, and then this is YG11 mignonette. And again, I'm gonna have to hit that edge a little bit more, as much as anything, because I've had to lay down a little more ink, but notice how easily that worked. I can even see my little brush strokes over here. Let's duck in. But notice the difference, the significant difference between the 0s and the 1s. It's not about light and dark. We still go from dark to light, but look at the brightness in the 0s versus the 1s. Huge shift there. Let's shift it down to this lower one and hit our YG2s. Now the darkest of these is a YG25 Celadon green. And we'll start at the bottom and flick our way up, giving it that kind of almost like tulip cup shape. Anne's doodles are always so fun. I like her doodly, sketchy style. All right, so there's our YG25. We get to jump to YG23, which is a new leaf. Now, the interesting part again, Copic would tell us that we should be adding more gray. But I feel like we've gone a little more leaning back toward the yellows a bit. And that's where at some point you just have to look at the color and say, well, I know what it's supposed to do, and the general rule says it's doing, but this more looks like what it's doing. YG21 is anise. And again, look what we've done. We've gone way back to that beautiful yellow green. Soften that edge just a little bit, because that's really light. But we've gotten closer to the YG zeros, where the YG ones are missing that yellow feel. Okay, then we're going to come back and we're going to do 4s, 6s, and 9s. And I feel like because those colors are more desaturated, they would work pretty well inside the flower, because I feel like those are kind of, it's like a little cup, like a tulip, and we're seeing inside. The YG4s only have two. The first is YG45 Cobalt, yeah, Cobalt Green. And it has this nice kind of blue. We're leaning toward blue now. We've cooled it way down. And then the other of the set, because there's only two, is YG41 Pale Cobalt Green. Well, isn't that handy? Cobalt Green and Pale Cobalt Green. Not very creative, folks. And these are not blending as happily together, but we're gonna make it happen. It's not gonna happen with a simple flick, but we kind of got it there. So those are the YG4s. Then we have the YG6s. Those are going in here, and a lot of people are familiar with these guys. You see a lot of people use these. YG67 is this beautiful, gorgeous, deep yellow-green that works stunningly on foliage. I should go more straight across on this because it's inside the flower. Not so rounded. And that is, sorry, moss. Then we've got YG63, which is pea green, PEA. I use the YG63 in conjunction with YG01 and YG03. And then I will tone that down with YG63. I like that combo a lot. YG61 is pale moss. There's that creative naming again. I'm learning so much, actually paying attention to the names. It makes me kind of giggle. Okay, so those are the YG6s, and obviously now we've gone way desaturated where we've added those grays, but look at where we've gone for those cooler, the underside of the leaves, the forestry, some of those just deeper greens. This is going to work beautifully. Then we go all the way to the extreme. We go to YG9s. We have a YG97 Spanish olive. The interesting part to me is this actually leans a little bit more back into the yellow. Is it desaturated? Yes, there is a ton of gray involved here, but to me this one looks like it has more yellow in it, where the YG6s look like they have a little more blue in them. YG93 is a grayish yellow. Now, the ones that the YG9s remind me of are actually the earth tones, some of the earth tones, and it's the 8s, E8 group. They have that kind of mossy, earthy feel to me. This is a group that I do pull out when I'm going for kind of really more like mossy. I wouldn't do this on leaves. This is the YG91, which is called Putty. It's almost like we've moved away from green altogether. And look at this. I mean, to me, this is completely earth toned out in that we've added a almost brown in there versus the green. So really unique shade with the YG91. And again, you pull away those other colors and you can see kind of that range, but really a unique range if you're just using those E9s together and not adding other things in. I'd be tempted to play with the E8s and combining that and seeing if I can play around with those two together. I think you could get some neat things. So the one I didn't play with, but I told you I had in my arsenal, is the YG30. On all of these, when they gave them out, they literally just said 30th anniversary on the end. They didn't name the colors. It's just 30th anniversary, but I thought it'd be kind of fun to go back in and put these. We have a little bullet nib, and they're almost white, but put these on the dots on all 3 flowers. So it is definitely a cooler color, the YG30. The cap is actually pretty accurate on this one, and then it tends to feel a little bit more like the green family versus the yellow green family. I would say the same with the YG1s. They tend to lean toward the green family versus the yellow green family to me, as well as the YG4s. They look a little more green versus yellow green. And of course, if I sit them up against something else, they will look different. But for fun, that is what the YG30 looks like if you ever manage to get your hands on one. The yellow greens. 1, 2, 3, 4, 6, 9. Those are all of them. Thank you as always for joining me in our little experiment here, looking at all the color families and all the Copic markers. If you're looking for more information from me, you can join me over at the Copic in the Craft Room Facebook page. That's a great free website with lots of information. You can join me over on my blog at Copic in the Craft Room, or look it up as scrapweaver.com. You can follow me on Instagram, all those great places. If you have questions about Copics in general or about this particular video, let me know in the comments below. I will check back regularly. Thank you everybody for stopping by. Have a happy, colorful day.